Hello everybody, another roster breakdown video. It's your boy Hazer, once again back, this time with the Valhalla Valkyries, which is a roster that consists of Ducky in the solo lane, Dzoni, or Johnny, I think it's, he's never told me I'm wrong when I've said Johnny, so I'm going to commit to Johnny in the jungle, Zyrhoes in the mid lane, the two-time World Championship winning duo lane of iRaffer and emilitoo, and you know where you love her, it's Tigress in the coach role. Okay, so things to break down with this team. There's a lot to talk about with this team, actually, probably more than most. Let's start off with, I guess, what's the most, well, this is probably the second most unknown factor of this team. The second most unknown factor of this team is Johnny in the jungle. Some of you guys and gals, and yeah, you might not watch the EUSCC, which is where Johnny has been tearing up the scene for the last couple of years. He has kind of built his name and his reputation on playing characters like Aokwang and Bakasura and Kali, a lot of auto attack based hyper carries. He originally, I would say he played a lot of hyper carry stuff when he was on Optimus Gang. When he came on to Belt Slap, I would say that he rounded out his playstyle a little bit more and kind of, he almost had an adapting arc, but in a much a little bit faster than adapting did. But he moved on from his, you know, just hyper carry picks like Merc, Aokwang, Bakasura, and then he picked up the gods like Daji and Ratatoskr, and he kind of rounded out his game so that he was a bit more multifaceted once he was surrounded, I think, by a team who he trusted a little bit better in Belt Slap to get the work done if he wasn't doing everything himself, which was kind of the way it went on Optimus Gang. Don't get me wrong, Optimus Gang had some great players as well, like Farah, Craig, Sibi. Yeah, they were all good players. But Caspin Fusey as well. I have to say them all out loud, but they were all good players. But Johnny was really a tier above them all. He was really the shining star on that team, the carry. And since he moved on to Belt Slap and obviously was playing with Huli and Zyrhoes and Arkil and Trix Tank, I think he learned a lot about Smite, and I think it let him round out his game a lot more. And now he's a much more complete player. I think him moving up to the SPL now is so much better for him than if he moved up a year ago. I think he would have maybe been found out a little bit a year ago if he moved up, in that he had kind of one style, and now I think he's a much more well-rounded player and has picked up a lot more variety in his god pool, which I think is fantastic for him and for this team. You can still expect him to mostly be a sort of hyper carry in the jungle player, I expect, but yeah, definitely capable of playing, you know, more tank-based junglers and more early pressure and stuff like that, and not just weighing out. Mid lane, Zyrhoes coming in from Belt Slap as well, so these two have played together, they know each other. Zyrhoes has probably mentored Johnny a fair bit and pushed him on to become a more multifaceted player, like I've talked about. So these two obviously have a little bit of synergy built up already. Johnny will know what it's like to work with Zyrhoes, which I think is good, because obviously we've had previous years where there's been issues with Zyrhoes on teams, on the Pittsburgh Knights when he got removed for Row. But yeah, he's still the same player he always has been, Zyrhoes. He plays quite a passive playstyle in mid. He's continued this for Belt Slap. He plays quite a passive playstyle in mids. He loves his Toth, his Yanis. Really good mechanically, likes to just hyper farm through the early game and play for the sort of mid to late game as a mage. I think Zyrhoes is also, he thinks about the game a lot. He has a lot of ideas and strong opinions on how you should and can play the game. And I think a lot of the time he's right. I do think that his passivity in the mid lane can be a weakness that can be exploited. So that's the one thing I guess you worry about with Zyrhoes outside of any potential personality clashes. But yeah, overall, he's still going to do Zyrhoes things. He's still a super solid player. He was great in the SCC last year. He's really driven as well, which I like about him. I think this can be a reason why he can fall out with people. He is there to win. He's not there to play. He's not there to fuck about, you know. He's there to win. So that's you know, it can count in his favor and against him if he's maybe a little bit too passionate. But yeah, Zyrhoes and Dzoni already got that synergy built up. iRaffer, next up, was supposed to be retiring. I know some people are going to use this as a stick to beat iRaffer with for some reason. He was planning on retiring his house. He cannot live in it anymore. He found a way to move to the US with his long-term girlfriend as well, which is the reason he was quitting and moving back. So, I mean, I think it's a totally reasonable thing when you get this offer in this spot to play, to come back and play, and I'm glad to still have iRaffer in the league. I think he's a great personality to have in the league at the very least. He's funny, he's outspoken, he's good in interviews and stuff like that, and I think that's great. How was iRaffer's last year? I feel like iRaffer's last year, if you were to sum it up, would be quiet. Last year I feel like, you know, he wasn't ever the reason that his team was losing, but I don't feel like he was particularly the reason his team was winning either. He was just kind of there plugging along. I'd like to see a little bit more out of him this year. If we could, maybe a bit more invention, a bit more innovation, and maybe playing alongside Emil is going to be the way that he comes up with that. I feel like this duo lane, since they left NRG, both haven't looked as good. Neither has looked like quite the same player since they stopped laning together, in my opinion. I think they've both shown flashes of brilliance. You're talking iRaffer when he found the Geb Kepri meta on the Renegades, Emil when he whips out the Chronos, still looks outstanding. But I really hope that them being back together in lane is what sort of sparks them both back into life. I think Emil in particular, I teamed with Emil for the record, and I thought he's still a fantastic teammate. At least he was for me. I really enjoyed teaming with Emil. He's still so experienced. He is good at taking control of games and has that winning instinct, that winning mentality, knows how to win games. So I like him being in here. I think he can also be a shot caller for this sort of team. Zyrhoes, I think, will have to do a lot of the calling. iRaffer I don't think iRaffer has actually been that much of a main shot caller for many teams, which is interesting. You would expect iRaffer with his personality to definitely be calling the shots and making people saying, you go here, you go there, you do that. But he's always been, at least when I've teamed with him, always been, he did join both those rosters a little bit later on, but he's always been sort of a little bit more of a step back. He'll take control sometimes, but he's not a big shot caller. I would expect Zyrhoes and Emil to do a lot of the calling on this team. Emil in the ADC role last year, you guys might have missed this. He played in the SEC for a bit on the Cold Llamas, was it called? I was on the team for a while. I should really know that. I think it was the Cold Llamas we were called. Terrible name. Had some okay finishings, sort of second, third, fourth, or something like that. Second, third, or something. If you include split finishes and tournament finishes. He then left the Cold Llamas and didn't play for a bit, and then played in the SOC with me on the Warm Snails. We finished second in the SOC to Pretty Prime's team, Pretty Prime and Big Porridge Coast and those lot, and then we didn't do particularly well in the World's Qualification Tournament, but you know, it wasn't much on it, to be honest. But Emil, he's still been playing the game. He's not someone who's just totally stopped and is coming back into the SPL all of a sudden. He's still been playing the game just at a slightly lower level than he was before. Ducky in the solo lane seems like, I said this briefly in the 8-minute video for all the teams, but Ducky is a weird fit for this team, but it could be really good. Ducky has played with NRG before. I think when Ducky first got his break, if I'm not mistaken, he subbed in for, it probably was it NRG? Or was it, what's the other one? Not Panthera. It wouldn't have been Panthera, that's too early. Was it Epsilon? It was either Epsilon or NRG anyway. He had to sub in the solo lane for Ducky. Ducky subbed in the solo lane for Dimmy, rather. And put on a bit of a show on the Fenrir. I remember that being his breakout. So he has actually played with Emil and iRaffer before. He's a very likable, I think he's extremely easy to get along with, Ducky. I don't think anybody has a bad word to say about him. So I think he'll do fine on this team. I think it'll be interesting to see him coming on to a team full of winners. I feel like before he's not really been on a team where they have a winning mentality like this one. Zyrhoes and Dzoni just come off of a season of winning everything with Belt Slap. Emil and iRaffer, obviously 2-time world championship winners. Anything but winning for them is failure. And it's going to be interesting to see Ducky. I feel like he is very laid back, and maybe this will push him on to be a better player. I hadn't really thought of that before. Now I'm just thinking now he's never been on the teams with teams that were expected to do well, or that even necessarily expected themselves to do that well. He was on that SK roster that really struggled. He's been on Obey. They really struggled the last 2 years. So yeah, I think it's nice for him to get a fresh start away from all the players who he's been playing with for the last little while as well. And might kind of free him, take the reins off him. I'm excited to see him in this team, and hopefully he grows and improves. Tigress in the coach role. Sometimes you just call a spade, right? Tigress is there so that iRaffer would move. She has little to no Smite coaching or comp experience. And that's probably all there is to say about it. Maybe she'll function for this team in some way like a coach. Maybe she'll try the coaching. Maybe she'll do something else as the sixth, like management stuff, setting up scrims, all that good stuff. Maybe doing some kind of data analytics. I don't know what kind of experience she has with that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, she's not going to be a traditional coach, I don't think, or at least it would take some time for her to build up and learn the game well enough to fill that role. I have no idea whether or not this team is planning on her being a traditional coach, or if there's no facade there and she's just there as a sixth, so that iRaffer would join the team and they'd have a better support. I did hear this team was built up originally, I think, with Kassir coach and Ocean's support before they made this swap. I don't know if they had ML ADC either. I'm not sure if ML was on the roster at the time, because Emil was obviously on that rival roster, which didn't get accepted, and then he applied with this team, the Valkyries, which have made it in. I'm definitely glad to see all 5 of these players in the league. I think all of them have the potential to shine. I do think there is the potential for friction between some of the players in this team. Hopefully they have a good living situation. It's probably be Johnny's first time. No, Johnny moved away from home recently, actually. I'm sure he moved away for university, away from his parents and into his own apartment sometime during last year. It was being mentioned. I think, did I have to sub in for that team in scrims, or were they dodging us? I don't know. Something happened where Johnny wasn't scrimming for a while because he didn't have internet in his new apartment. So he definitely moved away. So I guess he's got a little bit of experience of that, at least, because the rest of these guys aren't going to put up with somebody being a pain who's just, a very young person just moved away from their parents and doesn't know how to function as a human being. So it's good that he's got that experience in hand. And he's got plenty of older, more experienced people around him to kind of support him as he moves to a different country to play a video game, which is pretty cool. So have I missed anything out? Let's have a think. I don't know. I think that's probably it. I'm excited to see this team. Right now, I don't have them as one of my top teams. I think they're in my bottom 2, to be honest, right now. But you never know. You never know with this sort of team. That's the thing. You got Dzoni, you got Emil, you got iRaffer. I mean, I feel like Zyrhoes and Ducky are kind of the consistent ones. They're just going to play how they play. They're going to do what they do. But the other 3 are all sort of wild cards that we don't know how they're going to play out as a unit and individually in the league. Maybe it's mostly just Dzoni and Emil, to be honest. Both have a lot of pop-off potential. And Johnny's done really well landing himself a team like this again, where he can learn so much from the team he's surrounded himself with, which is fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching them, the Valhalla Valkyries. And that's going to be it. Please leave a like. Please subscribe. Please. I don't know what does subscribing do. I guess you just see the videos more, which is good for me. And yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.